Hello, friends. Welcome back. This is going to kind of round out a lot of things that we have been building over the past couple of weeks. So, as you see from this portal, what we have actually done is we have taken all our apps that were running locally and then actually published it into our org. And you can kind of see this built for your org. So, there are four different apps now at this point that anybody inside this org. So this is the org that we have set up for our teams. If you open this up, you can see that this is the on Microsoft account where we have a lot of users set up and whatnot. So that is where this is published. So any user who logs in and is a part of this org and who has the right licenses to use Teams can actually see these four applications and then pull them into their tabs or meetings or whatever they want, right? So the only thing that I've added right now is an extension to the site panel tab that we discussed in the previous video, where it was more static in nature, where it was actually a form taking in all the inspection data. So this is taking it one step ahead. It's just kind of simulating a dynamic aspect to it. So you can actually discuss with the customer how their vehicle is performing. So one of the use cases that was published for the hackathon was to allow the customer to do like an off self diagnostics and then send that over to the service center. So you can collaborate and then kind of see what the problems are with your car, etc. Right. So with that in mind, assume that there is an application built out that it has hardware, it has software, maybe compute at the edge, and you plugged it into the diagnostic port of your vehicle, and then you turned it on, and then it's actually going to send signals over to the Azure IoT hub. All those infrastructure components are not set up as a part of this project. That is going to make it very, very exhaustive and complicated. So assume that those are all in place, and then the device that is connected to the car is actually emitting out events periodically, and then that event is going through the IoT hub and then getting over. We're going to run some streaming analytics on top of that, and then maybe emit out certain things into a Cosmos DB database, and then maybe expose APIs that can read from the Cosmos DB database, and then expose those as data points into our Teams infrastructure. So the everything else that I mentioned is not there. The only piece that is there is this the DeLorean's IoT. That is the application that will simulate some kind of an IoT device emitting events, and then we are doing some calculations, and then emitting out insights in real time, near real time, into the Teams itself. So that is a dynamic side panel nature. So because it's a side panel, you can actually add it to a meeting and share with the customer. So that will make it very enticing, where the customer is plugged in the device and then he's on a meeting with you on Teams, and he is actually seeing the performance of his car in real time, right? So it's pretty enticing. So just to kind of, this is the new one which I've added. This is the side panel app for the IoT that I'm going to demo. This is the thing that we demoed, where it captures the checklist of what things are wrong with the car. This also could be in collaboration with the customer, looking around the car and then kind of allowing them to check and uncheck certain boxes. This is a service center piece which we discussed earlier. This is used by the people of the salespeople of this particular org. So they have a bunch of summaries, and then they have their own list of customers, and then they have the list of vehicles that they take care of, etc. And the fourth one is the DeLorean's Auto. This is the client side piece of the puzzle, where it should actually be available in Team Store and be available to public. But in this case, we don't want to publish our Team Store and all that, so we have put it as a internal app. But in theory, it would be an external app. So that's pretty much it. That is all the applications we have built. So just to kind of show you a demo of how this is built out. So if you kind of come here, the Teams FX console, you need to log into our Teams account, M365 account, and then you can see that the side loading is enabled. You also need to log into your Azure account with your username password that was given for the hackathon, and then the subscription that is available for us will pop out here. So this is the first two steps. You have to make sure that it is already there. So then when you come to the environment tab, you have a local, which means you can test locally. So if you run this button, it will actually run it locally. It'll create applications, and then it will actually deploy it locally, and then it exposes an ngrok URL. It all that is automatic, and it will allow you to test the application. So that's very cool stuff. It's all local development stuff, right? So the next one is actually called dev. So this is actually running in Azure. So what it is actually doing is it is taking your Teams FX project, and the first thing you need to do is provision to the cloud. So depending on the type of project we have, it usually deploys to some kind of a storage account. Because this is all Node.js, it will easily be able to deploy that into a static web application on a storage account. So it will create all the infrastructure that's needed on the Azure side. So provision in the cloud will create the infrastructure, then deploy to the cloud will actually take your code base, zip it up, and then upload it into the storage account, and then it will make it available on the cloud, right? So that's step number one. This is step number two. Then the third step is publish to Teams. When you publish to Teams, it will take the manifest file, it will substitute all the parameters that are required based on the state, and then it will publish the whole thing into Teams. So once you publish the whole thing into Teams, you will basically kind of land up here in the admin's console. And then you can see the link to that too here. So here, when you publish to Teams, it pops out a thing here and says admin panel, and you can click on it and it'll go to the admin panel, allowing you to approve and do stuff. So I'll show that here. So admin.teams.microsoft.com. If you go into that, you will basically log in and you will see that all your apps that are there. So I have nothing here to approve, but kind of what I want to show you is it will come up and it will be here under the Teams apps, manage apps. It will kind of show you that it will come one as pending approval. So if you kind of scroll down here and sort by publishing status, it will show you your app that it's been blocked. So you have to click on the app and say approve. So once you do all of that stuff, um, uh, it will be ready to use inside the application, right? So I will kind of demo that piece. So what I have done is you can click any of these. Or maybe assume that you are in a chat, right? So you open up the chat and you have a meeting, or you can set up a meeting is in the calendar app. So you can do both of those, or you can have an ad hoc meeting. So I think if you go here calendar, if you click on the calendar, you can actually say meet now and it will meet immediately, right? That's an option here, meet now. Or you can actually schedule a meeting, but either way, whatever you do, you will basically have a meeting, right? I've already created a meeting. It's called side panel meeting. I don't want to recreate a new meeting. So once you do this, you'll basically have all the participants. I'm the only one here, but you can add all the participants. In this case, it could be the customer. You can also email a link to them via email that they can click on and then join to this meeting. But all that is kind of all Teams functionality, nothing that we have done. So once you click on the join button here, you will join. So once you join here, you can see that the meeting is open, and then I'm having waiting others to join, but you will actually see all the participants. So the cool thing now is you can actually add the app into the meeting as a side panel. So we have already seen that. And now the one which I want to show you is the one which is the IoT, right? So the Delores IoT. This is the one which is the dynamic aspect. The customer's plugged in the device, and now he's actually being on the meeting with us, and then we can see the things going on. So that's kind of what we are going to demo here. So you're gonna click on just to make sure, right? This is Delores IoT local. So when you don't run the application in local mode, this will not work, even though it is showing up here. It is remembering that we had used it at some point of time. It won't work, but this Delores IoT is the one which is actually hosted on Azure. So that is a dev one which is running now. So you have to click on that. And it'll pop up this tab configuration. It'll call the /config endpoint, and then it'll pop up this tab. You can do much more customizations here if you want, but I have not done anything. So you click on save. So you can see that it added that meeting side panel, right? So this is where you can click on this button and then share it, and then actually close this off so that you can have more real estate. So if you see this one, this is actually a dynamic graph that's kind of pumping data. Assume all that infrastructure is there, but it's all fake right now. It's all inside the React component itself. It's using chart.js, and then just updating the data and recreating the graph. So that's why you kind of see that it is showing the updated data, but it's all not real. In the real world, you would probably have some kind of service that is backed by Cosmos or something, and then the entire infrastructure with IoT Hub and IoT devices, and then they also stream data, and then we do some kind of analytics on top of the stream, and then we give insights, and then those insights are pumped into Cosmos, and that is what will be the input for our graphs. So all that is ignored for this particular demo. So I made up some kind of a multi-point sensor. You can see that it's scanning about 16 sensors. I just made up stuff, and then it's going to calculate the overall efficiency of the vehicle as they plug in and run it. Right? That's one use case. So the other use case I want to show at least two graphs. So I put this one. This is also fake. We are actually trying to calculate the temperature of different things, maybe the oil, the exhaust, maybe the engine, whatever, just made up stuff. And we are plotting that as a graph. So you can have this kind of live stream working with the customer and then kind of show them different aspects. Maybe sensor 9 is maybe sensor 6 is bad or something, right? Or maybe you're detecting that there's a problem with sensor 6, and then you have a particular remedy to fix that problem. You can kind of point that out to the customer. So that is the demo which I kind of wanted to show you. This is extending that side panel concept to more of a dynamic aspect, where you are showing dynamic graphs using Chart.js in the Teams console itself in a meeting as a side panel. So pretty powerful stuff. As I'm learning this, I'm feeling like you can do a lot. So hopefully somebody can kind of gain some knowledge based on whatever experiments I've done. So this is pretty cool. Like, if you're in a meeting and then showing this to the customer, they will really be impressed. And then you can kind of share insights on different things. Maybe, some maybe your oil is bad and you need to get an oil change done quickly. Then maybe this is the sensor that tells you that, kind of, right? All made up stuff, but then at least it is kind of showing you a demo of what can happen and what could be, right? So that is the one. And then you can click on the apps again, and then you can add that other one, the side panel app. That was the one which we added before. So you can add that same idea. Make sure you don't pick the local debug, because that won't be running, right? So it's the only catch. So if you do this, you can stop sharing this one, and then you can share this. So this is the same thing we discussed prior to our, even this you can close to increase the real estate. This is the one which we did demoed in the previous video. And then the view disclaimer, you can see that, and the terms and conditions, right? So it kind of walked through all this, but I want to show you this in case you didn't watch that video. Maybe something to really quickly see, right? So that is pretty much it. That will round off the entire I would say the entire infrastructure and whatever we're planning to do, at least for this hackathon. So the other one